Alright guys, welcome to today's lecture, and it's going to be about the different types of chemical reactions. And we have 5 different types of chemical reactions. The first 2 we're going to talk about are synthesis and decomposition. And what we need to remember about these 2 is that they are opposites of each other. So synthesis, you're going to have one element, element A, plus a second element, and you're going to then push those together and get a compound. Decomposition is the opposite. You start with a compound and you break it into 2 different pieces. All right, our next type of reaction is single replacement. And that's where you're going to start with a single element plus a compound, and either your A and your B are going to switch, or you start with the same and your A and your C switch. So if you see and you look here, for this one I flipped A and B, so B's by itself now and A is attached to the C, or I flipped the A and the C. So C is by itself now and A is attached to the B. You're never going to have to actually create these reactions. All you have to do is be able to identify them. And so just remember, if it starts with a single plus a compound, you've got single replacement. Our next one is double replacement. And that's where you have 2 compounds and your front elements switch. So you end up with CB plus AD. So if you look, my A and my C switched their location. And once again, you're never going to have to create these reactions. All you have to do is be able to identify it. So for this one, if it starts with 2 compounds, you know you have a double replacement reaction. Our final type of reaction is combustion. And what that is a hydrocarbon so it's something that has hydrogens, carbons, or oxygens in it, plus oxygen, and it yields carbon dioxide and water. And so the easiest way to identify our combustion reaction is that it always ends with carbon dioxide and water. So if you see carbon dioxide and water at the end of your reaction, that means we have a combustion reaction. All right, let's put this into practical use. We have 4 different reactions here. Our first reaction, you have 1 element plus 1 element. So since it begins with 2 singular elements, and you have 2 elements here, that means we have a synthesis reaction. Here, my second problem, I start with 2, and I break down into 1 and 1. So my second equation is my decomposition. So guys, in these units, all you're looking for is patterns. If we look here, I have lots of weird things. So I have a hydrocarbon and an oxygen, and I end with carbon dioxide and water. But because I see this carbon dioxide and water, that means every time I have a combustion reaction. And now let's take a look at this bottom one. I have a singular element plus a double. And then if you look, my Ag switches with my H2, which means I have a single replacement reaction. Remember guys, I'm not asking you to create these problems. All you're going to do is look for the patterns. So for synthesis, you're going to look for the 1, 1, arrow 2, For decomposition, you're going to look for the 2 yield 1, 1. For combustion, you're going to look at the end and see if you have carbon dioxide and water. And for single replacement, you start with a single and a double, and you end with a double and a single, seeing that my first element switched with one of the 2 elements within it. All right, guys, let's look at our last 2 sample problems. What you're going to do, and every single time you look at an equation, is you go, what is the pattern? So here I start with 1 and end with 2, and if I look, I'm flipping Cl and Br. But because I have a 1-2 pattern, I will always know I have a single replacement reaction. And for our last example, if you look, I start with 2 elements, Na and S, and 2 elements, H and Cl. And because I have that 2-2 pattern, that means I have a double replacement reaction. So guys, don't overthink this. All you have to do is look for the patterns at the beginning, okay? And so if you look, double replacement has a 2-2 pattern. Single replacement has a 1-2 pattern. Synthesis has a 1-1 pattern. Decomposition has a single 2. And the only one you look at for your reactants is my combustion. And once again, you got to look over here. If it's none of the other patterns, you look over here and see, do I have carbon dioxide and water? And that tells me we have a combustion reaction. So guys, that's the end of what we're going over today. You have to do some sample problems and a quiz. And that's all you got to do. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me in office hours, and I hope you guys are successful. Have a wonderful day.